Hi everyone, this is Chunhui, the co-author of the paper The Right to Change Name under the Traditional Customer Principle of China's Civil Code. The article was finished by Zhaoxun, Chengxu, Li Peirong, and Yang Chunhui. Now, I'd like to introduce our research paper. With the advancement of social attitudes, the status of women in society has improved, and traditional China's conservative conceptions, such as the preference for man over woman, have gradually disappeared. However, the external manifestations of traditional conservative attitudes have not completely dated with the development of the times. Over 8 November 2022, a news story about the citizen named Ying Di successfully changing her name to Yu Ge sparked a public debate. This is because most of regions in China tend to treat applications for such name change strictly and in different ways due to the lack of the uniform standards, making it difficult to change such name in some regions. According to the media reports, tens of thousands of citizens with the names Zhao Di, Yin Di, and Lai Di have yet to change their names. According this paper analyzes the following elements using qualitative analysis. Firstly, the legal connotation of the name right in the context of personality rights. As a symbol of distinction between the human beings, a name not only a fundamental role in distinguishing one from another, but also embraces the good wishes of the subject and his close relatives from the development of his personality. However, due to the influence of traditional concepts, in some cases, the naming of a person by his parents and other relatives doesn't necessarily correspond to the true wishes of the owner of the name and the development of his personality. Secondly, the legislative provisions on the right to name change in different countries or regions. In China, the Civil Code and the regulations on household registration both provide for the change of the citizen's name. However, in a strict sense, the provisions of the Civil Code do not directly serve as the basis for the legal regulation of name registration, as the Civil Code is not an administrative regulation and the most direct regulatory basis for the name registration is the household registration regulations. In China, the household registration regulations have few provisions on the registration of name changes, such as the selection of names and the conditions and the frequency of name changes. Thirdly, the influence of the traditional customers on the right to name change. One of the most important bases for the name change is traditional customers. Traditional customers are based on the prevailing moral values of society and are interwoven with the public interest of the state and the society. This restricts the right to use a name that has a negative social opinion and at the same time creates an obstacle to the change of name to eliminate the negative social opinion of the original name. The name right is a personality right. Names are important symbols that distinguish individual human beings, while the short name is a symbol of the group. The first name is a great expression of the differentiate individuals within the community. Surnames can first be traced back to the matrilineal societies, where communicators use surnames as a title for their clans, thus facilitating the divisions of each other. In China, with the introduction of the Civil Code, a more domestic legal, the right to the citizen's name is now enshrined in the Civil Code, and the regulations of household registration also refer to the name registration system. Article 1012, 1014, 1015, 1016, and 1017 of the Civil Code regulates the name rights and the related issues of naming, changing, defending, screen names, or stage names, and the need to register the exercise of name-related rights with the relevant authorities. At the same time, Article 18 of the Household Regulations regulate a change of name of citizens. The right to a name is essentially a right of personality, and this view has been established in China's and the foreigner jurisprudence. In the traditional concept of the personality rights are essentially exclusive and inherently exclusive rights, which means that objective and the subjective of personality rights should be inseparable, and therefore personality rights cannot be transferred to others. In the view of the right to a name, the right to a name must have the character of the personality and is internalized as an important expression of the identity of the subject. In this case, the name has been internalized as an ethical symbol and should not be divorced from the subject. Can it be transferred and inherited? In addition, the name should reflect the ethical value of the subject's personality and the expectations of the family for the future development of the individual.
Legislation limiting the name change. In China Vision, the current China's civil law system states that a person enjoys the right to a name and has the right to decide, use, change, or permit others to use his or her name by the law, provided that this is not contrary to traditional custom. It follows that citizens' right to decide on, use, change, or permit the use of his or her name is subject to the boundary of the exercise of that right, which is not contrary to traditional customs. Furthermore, although the current civil code provides that citizens have the right to decide or change their names by their wishes, the relevant legislation of the civil code and the household legislation stipulate that citizens who decide or change their name must register them with the relevant authorities by the law, which makes the exercise of the right to the name effective only based on their unilateral intention, but not without registration or public notice. In practice, the administrative procedure of statutory registration of changes has become a means of limiting the exercise of the right to a name. In addition, although China's authority over the use and change of name is mostly stipulated in the civil code and the legislation on household legislation, and these two legal norms are not clear in their agreement on the specific name registration system. There are also provisions in some local legislations that restrict citizens' rights to change their name. In other legal systems worldwide, many countries provide for the change of the citizen's name. In common law system, influenced by liberal individualism, a citizen's name can be changed based on his or her own free will. In the UK, for example, citizens have the option of changing their name using a deed poll. In Hong Kong, China, the requirement for a deed of change of name also exists. Influenced by the British legal system and the Hong Kong system, there is no limit to the number of times a resident may change his or her name. China's name must not exceed 6 characters, and the English name must not exceed 40 characters. It must not contain no English letters. It must not use punctuation markers, and it must not contain foul or insulting language. In addition, the reason for the change of a citizen's name is not in question. In civil law countries, the permission doctrine is generally followed. In Germany, for example, citizens change their name into a change of name and a change of surname. Once the specific type of name change has been determined, the citizen applies to the household office. The reason for a change of name is usually marriage or divorce, but if other reasons are involved, a strict examination is carried out. There is no debate that citizens have the right to change their names. However, in the case of specific administrative applications, the exercise of the right to name change is hampered by the varying standards of the examining bodies and the more liberal powers of the examiners. Firstly, the Civil Code is an important substantive law in China's civil law system, provides solid evidence that citizens have the right to change their names. However, the Civil Code, as a substantive law in the civil field, does not directly guide the specific administrative registration acts of names, registration authorities about the registration of name changes of citizens. Instead, the household registration regulations, which provide guidance, only stipulated in Article 18 that citizens under the age of 18 shall apply to the household registration authority for a change of registration by themselves. Their parents or adopters, citizens over the age of 18, shall apply by themselves. Although the regulations stipulate that the exercise of the citizen's right to change his or her name is a unilateral legal act made upon application. In specific cases, whether or not a citizen can change his or her name and what name he or she can change are subject to restrictions by the name registration authorities and their relevant staff. For example, the Liaoning Provincial Public Security Department issued the notice on further tightening the management of household registration, and the Shenyang Public Security Bureau issued the notice on strengthening the management of changes and correction to resident household registration items. Secondly, according to Article 1012 of the Civil Code, the change of name of the natural person shall not be contrary to traditional customs and traditions. As mentioned above, the exercise of a citizen's right to change his or her name is subject to the decision of the name registration authority, and there is no uniform standard for traditional customers when the name registration authority examines a citizen's application for a change of name. As one of the important principles of civil law, the essence of traditional customers is to safeguard the public interest of the state and the society. As the right to a name has a high degree of personality rights, it is reasonable to expect that most citizens choose to change their names based on the good expectation of their personality development and prospects in life, which is not contrary to the principle of traditional customers. Finally, many issues in the field of civil law are inextricably linked to traditional China's concepts. In the case of the name change of Yingdi to Yuge, for example, the name Yingdi was not created by the owner of the name change, but by her grandmother when she was a young child. As human beings who live in group, they have social attributes. As an important social attribute, the name is of course of great interest to other members of the social group. In most people's minds, this name is associated with the traditional idea of some preference, which has an effect of influencing the social life of all those who change their names. This is a reflection of the factor that the right to a name has a high degree of personality and therefore guiding the owner of the right to a name a free right. to change his or her name, essentially an enrichment and the improvement of the right holder's personality rights, respecting the free expression of the right holder's meaning and the independence and development of his or her personality.
And this rational thinking links uniform standards, resulting in different administrative results for the same issue. In addition, in handling applications for name changes, a balance should be struck between the powers of administrative bodies and the rights of citizens, taking into account the personality right of the right to a name and the reasonably expecting citizens to be aware of the relationship between names and the social symbols. To give citizens more rights to change their name and reduce the number of applicants who miss the opportunity to change their names due to traditional altitudes. This will reduce the number of missed opportunities for applicants to change their names due to traditional altitudes. In China, although the right to change the citizen's name is regulated, the content is so brief that the relevant institutions often have to rely on local rules and regulations, and the rational thinking of the public official making the specific administrative act about public order and morality when dealing with relevant issues. Here are all our presentations. Thanks for your listening.